Hi, I'm Ryan Castle. Welcome to the Level 10 Leaders Podcast. We're going to be breaking down the systems, habits, and mindset shifts used by EOS leaders to crush their growth goals and achieve Level 10 success. If you're a visionary, integrator, or leader of a fast-growing team, this podcast is going to get you to 100% strong. Hit subscribe, stay tuned, and let's get started on the journey to learn, lead, and level up. Jen Hamilton of Hamilton COOs, welcome along to the Level 10 Leaders Podcast. So fabulous to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I've been looking forward to this. I'm excited for our conversation.
We've been fortunate to have some conversations well ahead of our podcast recording, Jen, and the service you do to the organizations and the community you serve is awesome. We're so aligned on a lot of our thinking. We love lots of your content. We're big consumers of your content as well. So it's going to be great to have you on the show. But let's get you introduced to our audience today. Let's hit you with some fast fact questions.
Okay, let's go.
Are you a breakfast or a dinner girl?
Ooh, well, I have to default to dinner because I do intermittent fasting. So unless you consider breakfast at lunchtime, then yes.
I got it. Okay. And quickly, how long have you been intermittent fasting? How are you defining it's working for you?
7 years, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it works for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't died yet.
Like all these good things, I went deep on the Huberman podcast about intermittent fasting. Tried it for maybe 3 months, I think, and didn't find it result in any particular change for me. So yeah, that was good.
I like to say I haven't died yet, so clearly it's you can sustain waiting a little.
For sure. Already on holiday, would we find you nice and cruisy on the pool lounger with a good book, or would we find you doing something adventurous like bungee jumping?
Definitely more adventurous, though the bungee jumping, I have done it. I'm scared of heights, so something other than a little height-based adventure. But my daughter says she was born in the wrong family. She needs to be with my sister's family because they're more of a lounger family, and we are just like, let's shove in everything we can possibly do into this vacation and never stop. And so she wants to disown us at vacations.
Okay, understandable, different styles. Okay, we know you're a San Diego-based girl. Are we more likely to find you in a comfy pair of trainers around San Diego, or are you still rocking those high heels?
Oh, gosh. Definitely trainers. Flip-flops are also kind of our culture. So, yes, for sure. I never was really good at the high heels anyway. I tried on one pair once that apparently was really good. That's what my sister told me. And then I just was standing and fell over. So I'm not made for them. She's okay, you're right. You can't do high heels.
Superb. Curious, Jen, when it comes to learning, how do you like to consume your learning content? Do you tend to be podcasts, videos, books? What works for you?
Yes, all of the above. For me, audio, if it kind of helps. So even when I'm reading books, if I really want to grab the book, I get the audio and the Kindle, and so I'm doing it together. But I love the video. I love podcasts. The audio just really works well for the way my brain works. But I also like to sometimes, if I'm only getting it through video, I'm like, okay, can I transcribe this so I can get the pieces? So I like to have that combination of being able to hear it, and then when I really need it, see it as well.
Yeah, I like that. I just end up with so many devices when I'm listening to the audio book, reading the book on some kind of device, and then I'm like, I also need to take some notes and get the good points down as well. So there's a lot of gadgets going on.
Yes, exactly.
Jen, are you cats or dogs?
Dogs for sure. Sure.
Okay. Do you have a dog?
I have two. We are a 2-dog house since we had a house, and we love our rescue dogs. So being that I'm in San Diego, I have 2 Mexican street dog rescues currently. And so, yeah, they are very, very grateful. That's one of my favorite things about rescues is you just know they appreciate and are so loving.
Amazing. And the way you phrase that, it sounded like you're open to adding to the pack. 2, no, I think you said 2 at the moment. No.
So we just got our we lost our a Mexican rescue after old age in May, and we finally were ready for our next one. And I didn't want a puppy. I like rescuing around 2 years old. I was outvoted, and so right now I definitely do not want another dog because we're still doing the potty training and all the training. I'm like, no.
All the high maintenance bits.
Toddler basically is enough.
Totally understand. Alrighty. Hey, Jen, let's dive into some of the knowledge and experience that you've got to share. The way we like our guests to talk about this is kind of give us 3 highlights of things that have been impactful for them, impactful for their clients, and then the opportunity for us to kind of dig into each of those. So can you give us 3 highlights?
Sure. I think some interesting things about me and some passions I have going from CPA and the finance world into ops. That's not often a shift. So I can share how that has been beneficial and maybe sometimes like just confusing to clients. So we can go into that. Also, it's that concept that's pretty interesting to a lot of people these days is the fractional. So the fact that I am a fractional COO and I lead the one and only community of fractional COOs, I'm very passionate about this as a solution. So we can get into that. And then the other piece, I love client experience. I just have always just want to make such a great experience for my clients. So there's some fun things we can dig in around that.
Okay, sounds good. It sounds like you're a complete mashup of different personalities and styles. Jen, we've got CPA, we've got ops, we love client experience. It's like, what happened to your genetic code?
I don't know. I know in Traction, they talk about an integrator being a rare breed, and I think that really resonates with me. It is an odd combination.
Okay. Let us understand a little more about how you went from CPA into operational roles. Keen to learn about that.
Yeah, absolutely. As I was laughing, I went from one geek to another geek. To be able to start my career with the accounting background, I think has been something that has served me throughout my career. It was quite a while ago. But I just to really embrace my geekness. When I first went into college, I wanted to be a business major. And that's because it sounded good, but I don't really know what that means. Like, what does business mean? So I wanted to learn all about it. My very first class was accounting, and I just fell in love with it. I loved it, which is so embarrassing to say, but it wasn't because
the joy of those things balancing at the end. I mean, there's a lot of joy to be found there.
I love doing jigsaw puzzles, and I think it's part of it. Is like there's pieces that when they come together really makes this whole picture. And so, getting into the accounting space, one of the things that I did appreciate is that it was a unique way to learn business through the financial lens. And then my role was an auditor at PwC and then the other firms that I was in too. So I'm not a tax person. Don't ask me, but I'll refer you to some great people. I've never done my own taxes, really. I've always had help. But the auditor is almost like a consultant as well. And that's part of what I appreciate about it is that you go in and you look for signs from the numbers of what may not be efficient, effective. Where is it that the processes are breaking down or the data doesn't kind of match what they're saying? And so the detective work of using data to be able to figure out how can we run this business better? And that was always my intention, was to come in and see how can we have the team be more efficient with their processes, be able to be more informed with their data. Though they didn't always see me that way, that was my intention, is how can we make them a better business when we're gone? They saw me as a necessary evil, like, ooh, here comes the auditor, which is part of what had me shift out of it. But that piece of putting the puzzle together, doing that detective work, seeing how we can have people and their processes, their systems, their data work better, has carried over very easily into my ops side.
Indeed. And I imagine you put together a killer scorecard.
I think so. I do love definitely being able to quickly get a sense of what's happening by looking at data, but I'm also really aware of that we want to get the story behind it because the numbers tell us a lot, but they don't tell us everything. So I am still very team-minded. So that's one thing I think that is unique about me when I tell people I'm a still licensed, inactive, but a licensed CPA, they're like, you don't fit the mold. And I try to take that as a compliment, even if it's not meant to. But I think
I think you should. I think you should.
Sorry, accountants. I think what it means, though, is that I have a real appreciation for the soft side, not just the technical side, the people skills, the ability to really empower the team. And I do think data and scorecards are meant to be feedback and empowering, not judgmental.
Sure. Totally agree. Could you give us an example of maybe where you have worked with a scorecard? Doesn't have to be the auditing example, but how you've seen numbers uncover something that needs attention, and then how you were able to kind of deploy your operational capacity and skills to then dig in behind those numbers and find the improvement?
Sure. And some of it is like the high level scorecard where you're looking at it from the company level. And some of it is more detailed departmentals. I can think of two different examples, but just overall, I say this a lot with my clients because they're in professional services. And a lot of times AR is one of the things that looking at accounts receivable, if it's really high, we have a major cash flow problem. And so that's usually a process problem or just an approach to how we're billing or how we're following up. And so that's one place I love to keep an eye on it. When it is a service-based business that is billed after the work, it can be killer. So we've made some really huge improvements to the process that allows us to be able to collect and have the ability to have growth because we can invest or have some breathing room. And, in case of whatever does happen, because things are going to happen, you have some reserves and things to be able to make it through. So that's a big, easy one to look at and a big impact. So I like seeing that on the scorecard, not just from a financial point of view, but I look at it from a process point of view. The other one, I'll sort of lead later into client experience, is that we had a client that was membership based and they were losing their members. And of course, with membership, retention is king. And so looking at the data, we were looking at complaints, right? And one of the things that we dug into through a level 10 meeting was talking about what kind of complaints we're getting. And since they were all on the scorecard as one number of complaints, it wasn't as helpful. And so what we decided to do is split the complaints between, was it a people related complaint or was it a process related? So having the data split that way. So again, just getting behind the story of the data, we were able to see that it was both, and we could dig in and understand that our people weren't trained on the process and the process wasn't always consistent, but it allowed us to just kind of get much clearer on how to solve the problem.
Okay. Whilst we're on the theme of the client complaints, let's keep unpacking that one. I saw a great post that you did yourself about, I think my takeaway was certainly about, firstly, it's about a mindset piece. So when you get a customer complaint, if you can see it as an opportunity for improvement and how you can make things better rather than the negative mindset of, oh, heck, someone's complaining again. Can you tell us a bit more about your kind of view of that when that complaint first comes in?
Thank you for reading my content. And I just appreciate the chance to share some of the things I've learned. And I will say in this case, the hard way, right? For me, I often go to, I got a complaint or an upset client. And the first reaction, just the visceral reaction is, I'm personally attacked, in some way, shape, or form, however big or small. So I just want to own that feeling. What I'm not saying is you can get away from the initial feeling, like that is real, or you feel like you've wronged someone. There are negative feelings that pop up immediately. It's what you do next that matters. So however long it takes for you to have space, breathing room, certainly like the last thing you want to do is reply if it's an email immediately. Of course, if you're in a meeting, you just even literally just take a breath, let it in, continue to listen. But the thing that I have found, and this is part of what I was sharing, is that how I handle my response will make all the difference in that, not just client experience in that moment, but in terms of retention in terms of referrals. So a lot of times, whether we like it or not, our brains are just focused on a threat. When you, as an example, think to yourself when you're driving down the freeway, how often do you just stop and see all the traffic is stopped because it's a gorgeous sunset, right? No, we stop because there's an accident. We are tuned into threats. And so when you get a client complaint, you're tuning into that threat. So think of it from the client side. When something goes wrong, they're threatened. It's maybe they just feel like they can't trust you. You said something you're not, whatever it is, their experience is that something is at risk, something's a threat, something's wrong. So they're going to pay hyper attention to it. But they're also going to share about it with others if you keep it in the threat area. If you haven't cleaned it up and shifted them from this is no longer a threat to we've got it solved, then of course you're going to stay as something that people aren't going to recommend you. They may not want to keep working with. So if you think about it from just that simple thing is that you want to strategically move them from what you did is not working for me to, okay, what you're doing going forward is going to work for me. So it's all about this kind of shift to, can I trust you again when it comes down to it? Because in some way, when we mess up, whether it was intentional or not, you've had their trust shaken. So how you get back to it is essentially what you would want. What would you want to do when you feel wronged in some way? It's not about making excuses. It's about letting me vent. Like, can I just get it all out there? Let me share with you what it all is. And you actually listen, hear it, validate, not necessarily agree, but validate. I can see where that came from. I can understand that concern. Just really listen, take that active listening. And then what you want to be able to do is own it. I see where I did wrong. I can see how, what I said here would be taken that way. It wasn't my intention. Here's my intention. So that is all good. Certainly apologize, especially where you are, but don't just say, oh, I'm sorry, but really have them understand that you get how you wrong them and what your actions or whatever it was that had them feel that way. The biggest piece though, is to make a promise for something new. And so they can hear you've learned from this experience and you're going to take action differently the next time. Just don't stop there. What you want to do then is be very intentional about having a way of showing them, I listened and I honored my promise and I'm doing it. So you have to kind of bring attention to it because right now you're in the sunset world and it's just like they may not even pay attention because you're doing what you said. And you think they're paying attention because you're so hyper-focused on it. But you do actually want to call it out, say, hey, I know when we talked before, this didn't work. I'm trying this. Am I heading in the right direction? And then they'll be like, oh, I didn't even realize. Yeah, actually, that's better. And so just calling it out, not from a, hey, look what I did, but from a, sure. Is this actually the way we should work forward on these kinds of things? I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does, Jen. And if I was to just recap, I think the first thing any of us want when we are dissatisfied with a experience is to be heard. So you were saying, be heard. I'm a big fan of talking to people rather than responding on email. Because I think I've had so many situations in my own business career where how I've interpreted something that was sent in an email is actually really quite different once I've had the opportunity to talk to someone and get their context and their background and all that kind of stuff. You're like, oh, okay, I would have totally responded in a different scenario had I not heard. So I think the key word being heard, so actually have an active conversation and have some active listening. Super helpful. Acknowledging how their experience has been. And then I love that approach of looking to promise, I think was the word, you promise at least an investigation of how it could be done differently and then potentially a new way.
Quick break. If you're serious about scaling your EOS business, listen up. Here's the truth. Most companies stall because their managers can't lead. We built a system to fix it. At Level 10 Leaders, we turn managers into leaders so you can step back, scale up, or sell with confidence. Here's a quick win. Take 3 minutes to get a data-driven report of your team's LMA, leadership, management, and accountability strength. Uncover your biggest growth gaps. Take the LMA quiz now at lvl10.us/LMA. It's fast and it'll show you exactly where your team's getting stuck. Let's get back into the podcast.
I guess one of the things that comes to mind for me, Jen, is what would you do if the client's expectation was just outside your zone of something you can deliver, or your inability to deliver that experience for the price that that customer is prepared to pay? How would you handle that situation?
Good question, because it does happen, right? Their expectations and your scope aren't always the same. And going back to your point, this is definitely not an email conversation for sure. This one would be a conversation where I would want to just understand all of their expectations. What is it that you're seeing and expecting of me? Just get them to say it all out. Take notes or have your note taker do it, but have that ability to really understand what it is. If you can't in the moment figure out, is there some way to reconcile this within this scope? Just admit it. Say, I'm going to need some time to process and see if I can get creative, see if we can make that work within the agreement we have. And if you can't, you can just let them know this is outside of what we originally agreed. I always like to take a step back. Let me come back and give you some options of what we can do. And I always encourage you that one of the options be if possible, within their current budget.
Sure.
I also don't think you should give discounts or just because they're asking, give things away. So it's a quid pro quo, right? If they are asking for more than they're paying for, you can say, and I do this all the time, I know you want this. I can back off on maybe this project for a little bit while we work on this new project. Are you okay with this back burnering so that I could take the time that we do have together to move to this other project, for example? More often than not, people say yes. I have had occasion where people say, no, I need both. I say, okay, well then let's figure out how to resolve this. Would you like me to put a pricing together of how it would be, how long it would last? And I have had people say, yeah, I still want that, and pay me extra for a short period of time. And when people say no, you can always get to the point where this is the thing too, is as much as we don't want to, we can and should at times fire clients. If there really is unreasonable, there's no way around it. If they're disrespecting essentially your value, your time, your boundaries, you have to have core value alignment, not just with your team, but with your clients. And the other thing I would say, as level 10 leaders, a lot of times our supervisors, managers are responsible for other team members being treated well by their client.
Yes.
Please be an advocate for both, not just the client. A lot of times I see our leaders taking the side of the client instead of really just looking for, how can I truly understand what's going on? And it frustrates me. And I know it really hurts the team and the culture when you just assume the client is right. Please get the full story. You can find the solution in the whole story, not in part of it.
Indeed. We worked with a professional services firm some time ago now, and they would have a quarterly meeting, and they would choose one client to fire at their quarterly meeting. So they would get feedback from all the people in the organization who was not feeling valued. Why was this client always difficult to work with? And they just said the lift it got for their culture internally. And of course, what did it do? Yes, it had short-term revenue impact on that client, but it freed up space for them to work with higher value clients. So they were replacing D-class clients with A's and B's. So it was actually a better outcome for the organization as well. So it was a smart move. I think a few of us could adopt that one.
I love it.
Jen, let's talk about the role of fractionals. I think probably most people, our audience, are aware of the word, maybe have even utilized the fractional, but I'd really like your insight, someone who is firmly cemented in this world. As you mentioned earlier, you're running the Hamilton COOs fractional community. You've got a huge number of people in that community, which is evidence that there is a need in market that is being addressed here with fractionals. Maybe could you take us back to the beginning? How did you first start as a fractional? What was the need you were addressing at that point?
I, like a lot of fractionals, was doing it and didn't know it. So my work, when I left from the public accounting world, I shifted into more consulting. And the work that I was doing for clients was really operations consultant and leadership and management coach. And what that essentially started to become as I was doing that for small businesses. And it was 2 years of actually working with 19 different clients at the same time. Small clients, but 19 different clients over 2 years, doing just pieces of helping them strategize on their sales, their marketing, their service delivery, being able to help them make some decisions around risk management. And then it was one of the clients that I was working with who said, "Oh, I'm going to become a fractional COO." And I was like, "What is that?" And then she started explaining it, where I'm like, "Oh, that's what I've been doing, including for you, for 2 years." So it's kind of funny. Most fractionals have that similar story, is that we oftentimes are shifting sometimes from a consulting or trying out consulting and realize that there is this fractional thing. There are also folks that come from a larger company, maybe a corporate company, and are over the inability. There's many things, but I'll just say that the most politically safe thing to say is that they're over the lack of agility and really want to have that chance.
In the organization?
If you're in a large company as an executive or in a high position, you don't have a lot of ability to make change, to make difference. So you can see what needs to happen, but you can't do much about it. And so that's one of the reasons. There's others, but that's one of the reasons a lot of times people will leave corporate and want to go work with other smaller businesses. And so that's an appeal to fractional as well. And what I also say that I think is very, very powerful about it is that it's not just executive experience, but it's business experience. We have gone through a lot. By the time you see us in a fractional executive position, the word truly rings true. But in many cases, we have seen a lot of things our clients haven't before. And so what I think is very powerful that works for both sides, the business and the fractional, is it's our chance as we've got to this, I won't say last phase, but a later phase of our career where you have this desire to mentor, to guide, to kind of have that legacy of making a difference. And it's such a beautiful way to be in a business who could use some mentorship and guidance in something they can't afford. And that's part of why I share this first. A lot of people just think, "Oh, it's fractional. I can't afford a full-time, so let me get a fractional." That's a nice benefit, but it's really the experience, the advisory, the knowledge, the leadership that you get out of these people. Yes, of course, you couldn't afford them full time, but they don't also need to or want to be full time. They want to. I love to empower the team that I'm working with. I want to up-level their business acumen. I want to mentor and guide them and teach them what I know. The whole business runs better, not just me and my role.
Absolutely, Jen. And one of the ways we've thought about using fractionals is offsetting the generalist, because when you're employing, maybe you're budget constrained about who you can hire, and you end up hiring some kind of generalist that has some ability across a broad range, but not the deep expertise. And then I think the other side of that coin is, even if you could afford someone with that kind of level of experience, they have no interest in doing the lower level work. If you were to hire them as hey, can you just kind of do everything in this zone? So we've found it. And I'll give you an example. We have fractional components in our finance team. So we actually have people that operate at 4 different levels for us. So we have APAR, we have a financial controller, we have a CFO. These are all fractional. And we also have an advisory board member who is a fractional and a finance kind of lead. So we're actually using 4 fractional roles across our business, and we get brilliant outcomes because we've got the right level of expertise at every one of those levels that we need, and it works super well for us.
That's part of why I love this model. It takes a while before you really need every position to be full-time. So if we get back to some of the basics, looking at your accountability chart, looking at the right people in the right seats, I do think that you have more seats in a small business than you realize. Where the biggest mistake happens is to your point. I love this solution with fractionals as well, as I like to simplify it saying that doer seats and leader seats are not the same. We do need to separate them. And where you do get in trouble both ways is hiring a doer to be a leader because they're more cheaper, if you will, than an experienced, or hiring a leader to be a doer. And now you're way overpaying. And like you said, the desire and the interest isn't there. While one day I was super good at processes and details, I prefer now to oversee them, to do them. Yes. And you don't want to pay someone who's an executive, I don't care what company you are, to be doing detail work. So this is an amazing solution to have a separate doer and a separate leader.
Okay. Yeah, totally agree, Jen. So we've talked a little bit there about the benefit for organizations of having fractional, accessing the right expertise at the right level is super powerful. What do you hear from your fractional community around why they like being fractional? I think you did highlight the agility question or component. What else do you hear in your community about why they like this fractional kind of role that they do?
There's quite a few reasons. The other piece too, I think they won't always necessarily come out of the gate saying it, and they probably won't necessarily say it to the face of the client. But I mentioned a little bit about this, but it is our time to leave our legacy. We want to be able to look back at our career and say we did something positive. We had a positive impact. And while there's agility within the small businesses, it gives us a chance to give an impact, but we also want to make it everywhere. So to be in one role, you are only making an impact in one area. To be in multiple companies and to come in and come out of those companies. I love being able, and I know a lot of people do too, part of why you're drawn to fractional is that you are a fixer. You're not a maintenance person. So I think of it like, when you have your car that's check engine lights on, you're not going to go to Jiffy Lube for an oil repair. You want to go to an expert, help me fix it. But then once it's in maintenance mode, then you can just get your oil changes, right? So we don't like to necessarily sit in maintenance mode. We like to fix something, get it running well, and then turn it over to the team essentially to keep running it so we can go and make that difference again. So it's so rewarding to be able to work with multiple companies, multiple teams, get them really we're almost a combination of sitting in that seat, a change management consultant, a turnaround consultant, a leadership coach. Like we really have quite a bit of roles that we play, and we all love to do that. When you get to this stage in your career, you've probably done it in some shape or form. So the more we can do that work that we love, the bigger impact we make. At the end of the day, we're thrilled. Of course, there's other benefits of being able to have flexibility, have the ability to have a schedule that sort of works around. When I first started, I still had kids at home. And as of last Saturday, I no longer do. I'm completely empty nested. And it was just very nice for me. I actually, you said I'm in San Diego. I prefer East Coast clients because I could work early in the morning and then have the afternoons with kids, so that's a lot easier than going to someone in San Diego and not being able to get home because of the traffic to take my kids to an appointment or, just be part of their lives.
Love that. Okay. Let's run a scenario at you, Jen. A visionary has gone, I've decided I need a fractional integrator / COO. What would be the guidance you would give to that visionary to make their onboarding and working with an integrator as successful as it can be?
So one would hope that fractional has a great onboarding process themselves. So I'm going to share with you mine so that the visionary can say, okay, I want you to do something like this, kind of thing if they don't already. But one of the mistakes I will say, and this is what I'm going to tell you, visionaries, I know you are really excited to have someone who's capable of going toe-to-toe with you and saying, I have this problem, what would you do? And be strategic with you. So I've had clients who are like, can we just get started right away? Once they said yes on helping me problem solve, because it's very, very lonely and you feel the weight of the world to make your decision. So this is my caution. Let us get up to speed first. So I know you want to dump all these things. Please, someone competent can help me. Let us get up to speed first. So I actually have an onboarding process. I have a diagnostic, doesn't have to be, but I have an interview process. I want to look at your financials, not just because I'm a CPA, but I want to look at it from an operational point of view. I want to look at that accounts receivable. I want to look at especially if you're on your EOS, I want to look at your VTO. I want to look at your accountability chart. Like, let me get up to speed as quickly as I can. Sure. I do an interview kind of process, interview questions. I know what to ask to help kind of get to it. But what I'm looking for is not what you see, visionary, as the problems, because you're likely going to give me symptoms. You're going to have complaints. What I'm looking for, and give me the space to do that, is the root cause. Because what I love to do is find that first domino that if I can just make this change, we're going to hit a lot of those symptoms. So oftentimes you're so in it, you're not going to see what do we really need. And I want that space to be able to pause. I try to do it within 3 to 4 weeks. So if you could just be a little bit patient, let me just get up to speed. I could do it pretty quickly. It's just a matter of let me dig in enough and ask enough questions and connect with others to start to see the pattern and see where we can make the biggest impact the fastest.
I'm smiling, Jen, because it's such great insight. But then when you used visionary and patient in the same sentence, I was like, I haven't come across too many of those. I see them sitting there tapping their foot going, you ready yet? Are you ready yet? How about now? How about now? How about now?
Yeah.
But totally
it's a little disciplined, but you waited this long.
Exactly. Keep them controlled because you're not going to be able to help in the first day you're in the organization. You just don't have enough context for how to make effective, really that IDS process, right? You can't get in and help solve if you don't have the context for the business. So that's really good insight.
I will also say, if I may, real quick too, I've made the mistake of not doing that. And just diving in and starting to solve and leading meetings and just kind of digging in. And what happens is I find out sometime down the road, but it's a lot later. And then I realize I've been solving the wrong problems. You actually save money, time, and get the results faster if we just do some digging in.
Sure. Yep. Good guidance. Hey, Jen, I've really enjoyed our discussion today.
Thank you.
If there's part of our audience that are like, I'd love to connect with Jen, I think maybe she could help, or maybe I'd like to join her community, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Thank you so much, Ryan. I've enjoyed it too. My website is Hamilton COOs with an S.com. And that's where you can find out we do roundtables for visionaries and integrators, CEOs and COOs, as well as if you're interested in just being a part of our Fractional COO collective, it's for integrators as well. You can find all of that on there. Our roundtables are monthly and they are free. So it's a great way to start to kind of be around other people that are having these conversations, solving some of these things and not feel so alone.
Great. We will make sure we also put hamiltoncoos.com in the show notes so people can find that and click on there. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Disclaimer, Level 10 Leaders is an independent podcast and leadership development platform. It is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by EOS Worldwide LLC. EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Level 10 Meeting, and related trademarks are trademarks of EOS Worldwide and are used here for informational purposes only. Thanks for tuning in to Level 10 Leaders. If today's episode hit home, here's what you need to do. Take the LMA quiz. Go to lvl10.us/LMA. It's fast and reveals what's holding you back. Hit subscribe and share this with one person who needs to break through the ceiling and crush their growth goals. Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll show you exactly how to level up to level 10.